All of us reach a point in time where we are depleted and need to somehow find a way to reignite the fire within. But how do we spark that flame? Welcome to Reignite Resilience, where we will venture into the heart of the human spirit. We'll discuss the art of reigniting our passion and strategies to stoke our enthusiasm. And now, here are your hosts, Natalie Davis and Pamela Cass.
Amazing.
Fabulous. What's happening in 2027? You
Yeah.
can't just leave us hanging.
You can't just
We're like, wait, what?
So you probably should look at, like I said, I'm not an expert in this area, but the general overview is that in the 1600s, the design shifted to be very group oriented. So you think about all of like churches and all these groups that came over the last, even the whole idea of the Industrial Revolution, collaboration at a high level in a different way than we had been doing. And now in 2027, it'll be shifting to the individual. So it's actually, the cool thing about this shift is that each of us, as we grow, we will lift the whole world. So this is why it's important, like, and with all of our partners and everyone that works with us, we teach that it's not about making these concepts like proprietary or like somehow coming up with a solution and focusing on, well, we own this, it's our IP or anything like that in the future, because whatever knowledge we have, it just helps us to get to that next level, and then it's pretty much useless. You're there, moving on, right? And so I think that's why things are just going to be shifting. I don't know much about how this all works, but it's interesting to have that perspective and then look at AI, for example, and realize, oh, this is giving us the space to do this, to really move up our energetic level as a whole consciousness, as a whole big community in the world.
Wow, 2027. That's just around the corner.
Yeah, and it's been happening for a long time. I would say the earliest, like, this has been prophesied or whatever you want to call it by different people. The earliest time I've heard this spoken was like 2004. So it's been happening for a long time, and it's more, if you think about all the influencers today or all this focus as we change in the new economy, I think it's related to what I'm talking about here, where it's more about entrepreneurship, more about putting yourself out there in a way that we haven't in the past, or not sitting back in that corporate job that we can cope and however you want to look at it. Yes, be comfortable. There we go. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. That's just that comfort level. You're comfortable.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I think that's such a beneficial piece as you talk about the clients that you're working with and the clients that you're attracting to your business moving forward, is that understanding that you're not coaching and working with them for what was, but also to their full potential, and also where the collective will be, which that business model or even practice looks completely different from a business that you're structuring for success today.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where Jamie comes in. Like, she's the she can just like see the future with people. Like, I don't know, that's her gift. She literally, you tell her what you're doing, and she'll use your human design and your gene keys for sure. But she just has this innate knowing as to what fits for you. It's just totally her thing. And so that's really nice, because usually what happens is people actually come out of a call with her and say, oh my goodness, you just blew my mind. And they're kind of a little overwhelmed because it's so much, right? Like, it's so big. And so that's why we've come up with the rest of our team to support people in not being overwhelmed by that big vision that Jamie just came up with.
Yeah. I imagine that could be very overwhelming.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
like,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
or never
Yeah.
experienced anything like that ever.
Yeah. So then they're usually like, maybe I don't need to talk to you for a little while. need, need to really, but then they always come back because they,
Of
Yeah.
course. They're like, I'm
it's
going to chew
amazing.
on that for a minute. Let me
Yeah.
get back to you.
They're definitely not like, I want to talk to you tomorrow, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
because their mind was just blown and they need a
Yeah.
minute.
Yes, exactly.
Ah,
So,
I love that. That is so great. That's great.
I mean, like when we first understand a little bit of that depth of what's possible for us, that can be really exciting, right? And then we dive into the details of it, and it's like, oh, great, I have to show up like that. Like I have to believe that, or I get to believe I have the opportunity to step into and believe fully that that's me, that that's how I show up in the world. And that can be, I mean, it's very empowering when we get there, but in the meantime, it's like, I don't know, because it's usually hitting, just going back to that hero story, it's hitting on the one deep fear that we have that put us in our comfort zone in the past, right?
Yes.
That's why we're trying to be comfortable there.
Yeah.
And
Because
it
you're,
got us to this point in life. So
Yeah.
if you regret to that, it's okay. You've
Yeah.
the car.
Comfort zone.
Fine.
Yeah.
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 That actually, that's the hard part, is because we think we can just retreat. Like, let's go back to what was comfortable. But after you go down this road, you really can't.
Yeah,
It
once you
just
know.
it's just a mess. Like you've started to see what's possible. You know you have to step into it. And going backwards is painful, right? Like suddenly you're like, oh, I don't know if I can actually deal with that, with the energy of where I was before. I can't do that. I can't be around the people even that I necessarily
Absolutely.
wanted to hang out with before. It's nothing wrong with them. I'm just in a different space, and I can't do that anymore. So that's maybe the most unpleasant part of the message.
Yeah. That seed is planted now and you can't go back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
It
you
would
can.
hurt.
It's just painful. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. Spoiler
Yeah.
alert. There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that was so
That's
such
amazing. That's
concept.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, in the clients that you've worked with, that you and Jamie have had the opportunity to work with, what are some of the challenges that you see pretty much on repeat with your entrepreneurs that come before you that we can maybe equip or give our listeners, if they're choosing to start this entrepreneurial journey, with some insight that will help them along the way?
I think, wow, that's so everyone's different. I think that the big thing that I notice, even for myself, I'm still working on it a lot, is this whole, um, I don't know, I guess let's call it anxiety, like the layers of the onion when it comes to anxiety. Um, it's kind of, since I've been down here, I've noticed it a lot more with people coming from the US and understanding, like, I don't know what it is necessarily. I think there's a bunch of different factors, but it's almost like in some ways, some of us, at least the more career driven people, let's say, have bought into, and we have these different anxieties that are part of our daily life. And then um, we don't realize how much they're affecting us. And so when we start to step into our calling, there's usually at least one big thing that we're struggling with that is around anxiety. Something as simple as showing up online, or networking or speaking, all of, like, you guys probably know that story pretty well. So I guess that's probably the number one reason why we try to get people down here at the beginning of the journey with us. Get them to Mexico and get some understanding of what's possible outside of that space of anxiety that they're living in.
Yeah.
It's
Interesting.
when you talk about anxiety as an onion, because just when we think that we've figured it out, or we figured it out just enough to hide it from the world so that they don't realize it.
Yeah.
That's the reality, is that you have to face it
Mhm.
wholeheartedly, toe to toe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the main one is money, you know. Like, and I'm totally not immune to this, but there is when we start people with Kyle Cease's book, The Illusion of Money. So
Mhm.
that's a good place to start. Just understanding that our bank account, our retirement plan, all of that is not the success plan. That's not related to our calling. Like if you think about the people who have done amazing things in the world, they didn't like figure out how to hold on to their retirement and meanwhile also do something, right? And usually where we're starting in today's culture is we want to preserve our retirement plan, preserve our bank account, and then add something on top of that. And what Kyle tells us and what we teach at Believe Crew is that we can't do that. It's like holding on to something and then saying, I want something different, right? Like we have to, I don't know exactly, there is no like script here of what you have to do, but we have to learn to really dig into what's behind that. Like, why are we individually choosing to have that safety and security
Yeah.
before we make a move? And when we can figure that out, then we can start to get insight into, okay, what's my motivation for doing this and what's possibly the triggers and why I'm anxious about money.
Oh, I think that's a huge one. And I imagine it's a huge anxiety for most people.
Hmm.
I was going to say entrepreneurs, but most people, like
Yes.
Yeah.
everyone. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
And
is,
it's the
Go
theory
ahead.
of creating the space, if I'm
yeah.
understanding you correctly, right? Like
Hmm.
if we're
Yes.
so focused on holding on to what we currently have, then we can't, in by any way, shape, or form, create the space for the thing that we're wanting to
Yeah.
create, the
Exactly.
new thing, or attract, or build, or
Hmm.
whatever that may be. It's creating that space to allow the new thing in.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if we write like a 30-year letter to ourselves, for example, or do use hypnotherapy to go into the future or whatever to kind of envision what's possible,
Mhm.
we're going to see that investing in ourselves now could like vastly change the future. But what we tend to do is want to like bring ourselves and everything that we think right now along into the future. And that's really not going to work. Like if we're going to, but if we go into the future, we're always going to make that choice to invest now. And that was where my personal journey started is I got some money from my mom who died in 2007 and then her trust was settled later, or actually it was through my grandparents. So it took a while. And then we sold all our rentals. And so we had this big,
Yeah.
like, what are we going to do with all this?
Mhm.
And, I was having these conversations, just meditating on it, and it became very clear to me, like, oh, we could invest in us. like, like when it was kind of like a strange moment of like, duh, right? Like, out of all the things that is possible, why wouldn't we invest in us? And so that was the beginning of our journey.
Well, I love that because you're investing in the here and the now rather than hanging on to the money for what potentially may happen in the future.
Correct. Yeah.
I
Yep.
Or
love
not happen. That
or
may not
not
be.
happen
Yes, exactly.
or not
Yes.
happen. And it's so interesting. Natalie and I are both coaches as well. And one of the hardest things for our clients, I know my clients, is, where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be? And they can't think that. All they can think
Mhm.
about is like this year. Like, no, no, no. I've never thought about it. I'm like, but what if you did think about that? What would that look
Mhm.
like to you? And that's so hard for people to think about.
It
Yes.
it 100% is. And I know that you said 30 years from now, and it's
I know. I was
interesting you
like,
say
that
that.
blew my mind. I
Oh
was
yeah,
like, 30? I'll be
I'm
very, very
actually
old.
I'm going to do later this week a session with a group of leaders, and part of that is talking about legacy leadership. And I actually was
Mm.
thinking about that today. I was like, okay, 30 years from now, 2055, and I started to get anxiety just in the preparation for a
Yes.
talk. Looking
Yeah.
at 2055
Yes.
on my screen, and I was like, what in the world
Yeah.
am I
Yeah.
thinking?
Yeah.
Yes, where will I be in 2055? What does that look like? And
Mhm.
that's a big piece to kind of uncover and tear apart so that you can, yeah, get there.
Yeah.
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 It's better to address that subject today than it is later,
Absolutely.
right? Like
Oh,
it's just it's one of those things that we grew up, my wife is born in central Wisconsin, and we raised our family there. And it's a place where you have all these paper mills. And we had just story after story of these usually men that worked in these mills, and they worked hard. Like it's well over 100 in the summer,
yeah.
long hours, usually shift work. Um, and so they all have the same dream. Like they get a couple days off so they can have a period for hunting now and then and all that, but they all have the same dream of, I'm going to retire. I've got my little shop. I'm going to do my hunting, whatever.
Mhm.
And so many stories, 6 months into retirement, they die.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
so, and I even Jamie's grandparents, who we love dearly, her grandma is 100% Italian, and they are just amazing folks. But like, I go to their house and I'm like, wow, you guys have so much to offer the world, and you're just sitting here, like, and that's not completely true, but it is kind of. And I think that our generations are going to shift that, because I don't think, as much as we appreciate the stability and what they gave us, and maybe that was their calling in their time. In the future, I think we're going to want a lot of that wisdom after 80 years of living to come back and to help others, and to get into that place where you can see that young people are spiritual. How can we serve them? How can we understand who they are and support them?
Oh, I love
Oh my
that.
gosh. I
Yeah.
love that. And I guess
Yeah.
that's where we'll be in 30
Yeah.
years.
Yes,
We'll
Yeah.
be that wisdom that's at the other end that's pouring back into.
we'll
Absolutely.
have to. We have to be, because
Yeah.
the kids today are by far the most spiritual kids that,
Absolutely.
like, I mean, they probably will be still teaching us, but we will have to be in a place to be able to receive and to mentor them in some way. I don't know
Mhm.
how, because I'm talking about like people on the spectrum, for example. I've had a chance to work with some of them, and it's like they're so gifted.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
By the way, um, this is one of my subjects that I've really loved talking about recently. I think there's actually trauma from not understanding and embracing our gifts.
Mhm. Tell
I
us
can,
more.
yeah.
Well, so trauma is basically not being loved through an experience that's painful.
Okay.
So when we work with people that have serious abuse,
Mhm.
at the worst case scenario, like if the person is not able, that abuse them, can't repent or whatever, or like say I'm sorry, which usually doesn't happen, we always have that ground to retreat to, where they can see how they can love themselves and receive love through the experience,
Mhm.
right? And so when you have love going fully through that experience, then it doesn't take away the pain, but you need that feeling of being connected and that you're embraced and loved through that painful experience.
Mm.
Well, I think that the same thing happens when, that's where I think a lot of coping comes from, is that we don't understand how to know what our gifts are.
Mhm.
And so we get little feedback about what they might be, but we don't always like connect to it fully.
Mm.
And we don't necessarily know in this age like what to do with them.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about as someone that uses my spiritual gifts a lot. It's still, I don't fully know how to use them, and I don't really know how to fit them into the economy, let's say sometimes, right? So I don't know. It's a theory. Putting it out there, it's possible that that's one reason why we cope, and that we could just acknowledge, hey, it's a little bit traumatic. And I see this especially with young kids, like, that have no clue why they're able to see spirits or whatever, right? Like, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
More to
That's
come.
huge.
Yeah.
Exactly. As you continue
Yeah.
to discover that, I think, or uncover that for yourself and share that with the world, because I definitely think that you're spot on there. There's a lot that, it's one of the additional things that hold us back from finding our gifts, right? Just even when you realize that you have a gift to discover, and it brings me back to the person that, and I apologize, I'll research it and drop it in the show notes, but there's the quote that's like, the meaning of life, or your purpose in life is to find your gifts, and the meaning of life is to give it back to the world. So like it goes back to exactly that. Like, you spend this time, you realize that you have these gifts to uncover and discover, and then your charge is share it with the world. And the challenge, I think, I'll make this an I statement, is when you realize what those gifts are, and then you quote unquote profit from it, right? Because then it becomes part of the economy, like you said. It's like, now I've discovered this gift, and I also need to pay my mortgage. So here you are, world.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
That's the hard part, is I think there's kind of like two different, like, we're in this space and time where the old economy doesn't really work and the new one isn't fully established, right?
Yes.
So we have people that we work with that it's like, oh, there might be some leanness in that shift, but there's always a way to be supported, even in the leanest period of time. It's just we have to be more creative.
Yeah. I was going to say, this is probably not the time to take your foot off the gas. Like, this is the time
Yeah.
to keep pushing through, especially over the next 5 years moving forward. Don't let off on it, especially if you're discovering that, or you're on that journey of discovering it.
Yeah.
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 I agree. Yeah, I think there's so many side gigs or whatever, right? Like, we hear that all over
Oh yeah.
the news about, and I think that there's just a huge number of people involved in this revolution, from
I agree.
what was to what is. And so that's I think the cool part, is that we don't necessarily have to understand all of it, right? Like, we just get to discover this together. And that's the beauty, really, if we start to understand what our gifts are, is we can start to appreciate the gifts we see in other people. And then we can start to see how we're all working together, and that magic is happening. Like, back to the hero's journey there, whenever the Hobbit would use that ring, he didn't understand how to use it. He didn't understand what happened. He just knew he needed to be there. And eventually I think he came to love that, whatever happened, right? Like, wow, this amazing stuff happened. Maybe he did, but he didn't tell it in the story. Like, oh, this is what happened. And the more we get that feedback of being in our gifts and doing what we are really created to do, is when we have the best, most fulfillment, the most joy. And then when we're doing something else, we're like, huh, this doesn't really work as well for me.
Exactly.
And we start to go to the right place, the right energy, and pick that all the time.
Well, I'm looking forward to 2027 to see how this unpacks.
Yeah, I've been trying not to, like, wording there is possibly not very powerful. The whole sentence was not very powerful, but
Well,
like, I don't want to put too much.
Yes.
Like, we've got to be like really stepping into today. And yes, I join you in being excited about 2027. Like, I can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah. But I'm excited about the journey to get there too.
Yes, good, very good.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's kind of like when, when you realize where you can go in meditative practice and then you strive to get to that place, not the process to get to that place. It's like, I can't wait to have that experience again.
Yeah.
That's not what you should focus on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good analogy. Love that.
Right? Yes. That's kind of what we're living through right now. We can't
Yes,
focus on
exactly.
until we get there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, Kevin, if our listeners want to get a hold of you or connect with you and your team to work with you, how can they find you? What does that look like?
Yeah, so we're on, I guess the easiest way to find us is LinkedIn, Believe Crew. Also, we have a website, www.believecrew.com. And yeah, those are the two places that we find people.
Amazing.
Fabulous. Any special projects or retreats or gatherings that you want to share that our listeners need to know about?
Jamie's doing a retreat in October that will be on the beach. And we're going to be having like aquatherapy people come in, different modalities to just help massages, that kind of stuff, and then just having fun. That's kind of her style. Next year, we're planning a Gene Keys retreat again, where we do. I have a partner I work with where we go through, educate, and do any healing that's available for each gene key. And that usually is part of more of like a 90-day program because it takes, I think there's like 17 gene keys. So we do 2 of them per day. It's fairly intense, but it's also like super educational about who you are.
Yeah.
Wow.
Beautiful. And then
Both
Human
of those.
Design and Gene Key are the assessments that you highly encourage everyone to take. And
Yes.
then load those reports into your favorite AI platform to get a summary
Yes.
of
Yes.
who
Yes.
you are.
And then there's so many people out there that are experts in human design. If you search your network, you're going to find someone. So usually if anything, they undercharge for the value they're giving you. So definitely, whatever the number is that they give you, that's going to be, yes. Yeah. And if it's higher, you're probably working with someone that's even better and really, really good at what they do. So it's worth, I don't know, 500,000, more than that. That depends on what they're coming up with and who they are and what they want, how they want to help you.
Love it.
And if you bring that back to what you started us off with, investing in yourself, if you look
Yes.
at investment in yourself, it's priceless, right? Just pay it and know you're going to use it to continue to grow.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
Amazing.
Any final thoughts or words for our listeners or anything that we didn't touch on that you wanted to touch on today?
I thought this was amazing. I really thank you for your time. And I guess I just want to express to everyone that we each have a path, and there's so many people out there doing spiritual work, energy work, whatever. I think the biggest thing to do is not so much like if you feel like, oh, cool, I need to reach out to Believe Crew, we want to be there for you. But I also just feel like our journey has been working with, 10 to 30 different people in our recovery. So I just would encourage you to just like start to notice and explore the spiritual side of who you are, and notice especially the people that come into your life in this magical way, and see what do they have to offer you, and be willing to have some conversations and explore it. And I think each of us have a path, and I think that there's other companies out there like Belief Crew. There's other companies like your massage therapist or your Reiki person down the road, or whoever it is. Like, I've had the fortune of working with all of these modalities. They're all amazing. And I really would love for more people to do that. I think that as you explore more and different ways of receiving help, it's just amazing. So
Incredible.
go for it. Don't let your fears hold you back.
Yeah.
And that's been especially true for me being down here in Mexico and even experiencing some of the Mayan ceremonies. Like, there's not a single ceremony or anything I've ever tried that was that I ever tried. Maybe I'm just listening to my gut and being on my path that hasn't been amazing. It hasn't helped me to expand my spirituality.
Mhm.
So don't listen to that voice of like, oh no, I can't do this, and it's too scary and it's too new. Just try things, have fun with it. Yeah.
Love that. I think that's the best advice. Explore more, right? Don't
Yes. Yeah.
explore
Yeah.
more.
Thank you for joining us today on the Reignite Resilience podcast. We hope you had some aha moments and learned a few new real-life ideas to fuel the flames of passion. Please subscribe on your favorite streaming platform, like or download your favorite episodes, and of course, share with your friends and family. We look forward to seeing you again next time on Reignite Resilience.